Ayo, Liege of Games. It's already into June. I didn't tell you, but yeah. What are my most hyped, my hottest crowdfunding games of June? I'm not going to give you a ton. I'm going to give you. Look, let's pull up the page straight away. Number one. Wasn't expecting to be talking about this one ever, but it dropped, and it dropped like a rock. And I mean that in a good way because it's just dropping hard. I'm not logged in, but if I was logged in at this point, you would see that I am already backing this. My addiction hits hard. Aeon's End. I own everything. I'm going to continue to own everything. It's Aeon's freaking end. Astronites did not satiate my thirst for Aeon's End. I'm not saying it's bad. I don't think it's going to be bad whatsoever, but it didn't give me the craving, the hopium that I wanted, desired, and needed. And I'm not even, 12 hours in at this point, and it's going to break 100,000, which, again, is fine. It's not for everybody. It is a deck builder of a different kind with a predetermined no-shuffle deck flip based on your discard, buying from a central market with several different types of items, artifacts, spells that are at your disposal that can be manipulated between players in combination against a nemesis. Now, this is the past and future. It is akin to not a legacy game, but more of a campaign style setting that they have done with similar games like Outcasts, one of the other standalone expansions that they're saying is going to be required. I hope that they do not put all of the non-essential stuff. That's been my biggest criticism of the Aeon's End products is you get a copy of like Graveholm's health die and the Nemesis health die and the Nemesis cards and I don't need 77 freaking copies of those. But all the other stuff, okay, I'll take it. Okay, I'll take it. And the pledge level is $64. Okay, I'll take it. I don't really care. I think I've seen overall at retail, it tends to be slightly better depending on the product, depending on how many other mini little expansions go along with this. And right now, based on the graphics, it appears to have 2 of them. Now, they require one of these. Like I said, you either need Outcasts or New Age to play the new stuff. But if you want, they're ordering basically the whole catalog, depending on how much of the catalog you want. They're calling this Wave 7. They're dividing up all of the other Aeon's End content in 1 through 6. If you want it all, $455, which I don't really know how that compares. Somebody else can do the math in the comment section because I am not looking up every single Aeon's End thing that I have and figuring out whether or not I spent more or less than that because I don't really want to know at this point. Ignorance is bliss. 5 new mages from the past, 5 new mages from the future. Okay, cool. 6 new Nemesi. Yeah, Nemesi. I went there. Nemesis. Liege. Nemesis. Anyway. New market cards. It doesn't sound like a whole lot of, value-wise, a lot of stuff. I don't know. Hopefully there's a lot more in there that we're not seeing. 2 new mechanisms called swap and develop that they've added in, as well as, here's where probably the money is spent, right? The stop decks, the envelopes, and the tokens. I'm not saying it's going to be the best deal out there, but I'm going to do it because you're also going to get a free expansion here. Whatever this is. I don't even know what this is. I don't even care. Origins. New Mage mat. New Phoenix sidebar. Pets? There are pets? That's how far behind I am. New market cards, new Nemesis. Okay. Awesome. Yeah, I'm there. I don't really care. Oh, milestone expansion too. There we go. I told you there were 2 expansions. And that's going to have all of the stretch stuff. So you can see all that starting to begin there, all the add-ons there. So anyway, I'm in. You can check all the prices down below, but that is why it is number 1 on this list that I was not expecting to go this way, but this is the clearest lock for me of the month. I am most hyped, most hotness about. Now let's get to the stuff that hasn't launched. I didn't think anything else was going to beat Septima, to be very frank, before Aeon's End launched, and all of a sudden it slotted itself to the number 1. So Septima has to be number 2, launching on June 16. Mind Clash is offering us something new. Simultaneous action selection, piggybacking power based off of what other people choose at the same time, risking exposure to yourself as a witch in the coven while trying to become the new Septima, the new leader of the coven, while also not trying to simultaneously out yourself to the village that's hunting you. The witch hunters, right? And this is supposedly supposed to be the most accessible Mind Clash game ever. It's supposed to be more of an hour and a half length game, which is right up my perfect sweet spot of length and depth and complexity. And if it stays true to Mind Clash, you're not going to lose those latter two while hopefully still keeping the shorter gameplay, because it's the get to the table factor that is the aspect and the main point of contention for me with Mind Clash. I mean, don't get me wrong, their games are a little bit too strategic-y, Euro-y for me with the other ones. But if this one can bridge the balance point there and show me what sort of unique combinations, management and action economy that it can do here, I am super excited. The question, though, especially when we get to this picture on Board Game Geek, is what other upgrades or deluxeifications are we going to have? And is this going to make it for me? I look at it as sort of a Garfield Games situation, sort of like what Mind Clash has done. Do I need the deluxe version that's going to be offered? What incentive for the deluxe version is going to be there as opposed to waiting? I'm looking at Wayfarers of the South Tigris, which just finished like a month and a half ago on crowdfunding, correct? And I want that game. That game is probably going to end up my collection. I didn't think the deluxeifications, and the get it slightly earlier from that campaign in particular were suited to meet my particular needs. And that's completely okay. Everybody has their different ones that, I mean, like I just said, Aeon's End is probably going to be, people are going to be like, I don't really want those two other little mini expansions. I don't think they're worth it. I'll just go pick up Past and Future when it comes to retail, and I'll get it for cheaper than you, Chris. And you go, oh, I'll be like, okay, great. And other people are going to look at this one and go, oh, well, I'm going to get this one, Chris. This is the one I choose to get as opposed to Aeon's End. And you know what? I say, great. I just worry that when I see these screen silk wooden components, because I have not seen a huge benefit from screen silk. It's all of a sudden becoming more and more of the rage. I'm thinking of my copy of Meeples and Monsters that I traded for, that I will have a review coming out in sometime in the whenever future, because I'm way behind on reviews. But I was not enamored with the screen silk printing on that. It gets in the way more than it's helpful. The color of it matters more, the color and the shape. And that just makes me wonder what the price point is going to be if these tokens are all upgraded as well. So how deep does this rabbit hole go, to use the example here, in terms of price point? And that's the other big thing that Mind Clash has had. Mind Clash games tend to be more expensive. They tend to be more of a premier product, along with the IV and the chip theories of crowdfunding. And again, that's okay. But is it going to price me out and exclude me out and make me get it later as opposed to backing on crowdfunding? That is more of the bigger test than, am I seriously interested in this game? Because the answer to that second question is, holy cow, for sure. The answer to the first question is, maybe. So we'll see when it launches on the 16th. Now, not to say that this is the only heavy strategic Euro-y type game going to be launching on the 16th, because this is going to have head-to-head competition with Lacerda's Bot Factory from Eagle Griffin Games. And by all accounts, people are saying that this is a thematically, stay with me here, lighter, more accessible Kanban. Kanban? Kanban. Guaranteed to mispronounce stuff every Liege video. But that's what is so interesting, is that if that holds true, again, accessibility, getting people into these types of games is not a bad thing. People say, well, is there really a market for this? Is there really a market for a lighter Terra Mystica that someone was asking on the forum section? Well, yeah, there is, because you should be enamored with a game like that, because if it helps people like that game, then they might be confident or willing to take the next step up to something else like Terra Mystica in the first place. But you think of Gateway as a bad term. And so the Gateway is foundation. This is foundation game, foundation worker placement, Euro strategy mechanism type situation, if that is the case. And you should be enthralled by this if it does do that. Now, is it? I don't know. This is outside of my depth of knowledge of how these compare to other Lacerdas, though. But I've not been hearing the terms super heavy and heavier than this and heavier than that being thrown around prior to launch, as does occur usually when we talk of the other Lacerdas when they have come around, especially the last couple, including on Mars. Now, they say this is the same worker placement style mechanism, of its predecessor that begins with a K that I can't pronounce correctly. It utilizes the same background setting, one of the same droids from that factory, making droids in this factory, staff personnel, if you will, but doing it again in a slightly different manner. Now, it is 1 to 4 players, and I would imagine, as with all of the other Lacerdas, to my knowledge, will often have or utilize very heavily a solo side of things as well. And so if a solo aspect, I believe that these are relatively well thought of from a solo side of gaming. So I would imagine there's going to be a heavy emphasis on that during the campaign, emphasis on discussion of it, or at least some component designated specifically for that. In fact, I would be shocked if there was not something along those lines. Do you have something like this? Are you looking for something that maybe is a little bit more of a gateway into the heavier area of Lacerdas? Or is this something just enough to entice you as a one-off as well? Because that's where the money is too. Now, this is obviously a line with other Lacerdas where they heavily deluxify it and make the deluxification really less expensive at retail, and there are often a few Kickstarter exclusives included with the campaign. Not a ton, but with the On Mars, I believe the last one, they were offering plenty of the back catalog. It'll be interesting to see if they do similarly with the back catalog here, as well as some of the exclusives that they offered previously on the second On Mars campaign as well. And if they just continue to do that, or if that will be a few once in a while sporadic type of opening. So we'll see as both of these go head to head on the 16th. Next up, we're going back to the 13th. And this is one I've had my eye on for a while. This is a Kramer and Kiesling, and it's called Amygdala from Game Brewer. Now, why am I again focusing on this as a memory style game where you're playing off of the emotions from the center of the brain that handles the emotions, the amygdala in the first place? Well, it's because it's an abstract game that looks pretty psychedelic sweet. A 2 to 4 player game where you are vying for control of said areas on the center of the board, but also on your own individual board. Collect and store resources acquired from the main board in order to unlock the emotions on your own individual board. The player with the most emotions in one region can score big points at the end of this 2 to 4 player game. Now, 2 to 4 player, will there be a solo? You know, Lacerdas are known for that. Abstracts are not usually. What did I mention though? If you unlock an area, if you control an area, you also have to claim an area to actually be able to score it in the first place. So it's not just as simple as I control the most, therefore I score. You're going to have to doing a multi-part claim to make it worth your while from a point standpoint. Now, this is the other concern I have with this game is as an abstract lover, abstract games are often relatively minimalistic. And this one is going against the grain in that sense because you see here, you have some deluxifications of components already that are going to make me wonder if it's necessary to get it, because I would imagine all of these fit very nicely on cardboard frames and circular pattern as well. So I'm not sure how I'm going to feel about this one, as much as I love the first two aspects of the gameplay thought and the mechanistic approach in terms of the abstract nature. The deluxification on, again, this one may be very similar to Mind Clashes in determining whether or not it is worth backing at retail and waiting to see what the price differential is versus paying the secondary cost versus getting it sooner and slightly, potentially, more or less expensive on the crowdfunding manner. So that, again, is launching on the 13th. Launching on the 14th, we have a very interesting different spin on things. Ha! You'll see why that's a pun in a second. We have Globetrotting from the people who brought you Canvas. Now, I say that because the main mechanism that you're going to be using in this game is this orb, this globe that you are going to be manipulating, rotating, spinning, and utilizing in your globetrotting adventures around the world, a la Carmen Sandiego. Yeah, I'm that old. I remember it before it was the new one on Netflix. Thank you very much. Now, you have to stay under budget in this 1 to 4 player game, or you span the globe in 3 separate trips over the course of 1 year's time frame. What you're going to be doing, essentially, is revealing down here different places that are going to be available to you on your map. You get to grab one, you get to grab it, and place it on any one of those said 3 routes that I just mentioned. And if you do that, then you take your little pen and you draw a line from one place to the next on your route. But beware, the farther it is, the more it's going to cost you as well. Oh, but just in case you didn't think that this was going to be multiplayer solitaire, you have travel buddy goals. And so if you meet up at the same place and time as your travel buddy, you're going to score additional points in addition to the global objectives that people are trying to complete first to end the game. And if you complete the most travel objectives throughout the course of the whole game, well then obviously you're the winner. It's going to be interesting to see because Road to Infamy definitely gave us a different twist and spin on things. I can't even stop myself even if I try. With Canvas and how their unique approach with the dual layered sliding cards and sleeves worked. And so I have to imagine that this is going to offer another revolutionary new situation to us here when it launches on the 14th. So that's it. That's it. Quick, easy, done. Not a whole lot big name in June. Nice video to make. A little bit of a respite before July comes around. July will spike up a little bit again. But all in all, there's enough money being able to be spread around between, especially those first 3 games, depending on who you are and how much you want and how much you have already, that it's not going to leave you wanting from a wallet side of things in the first place. So, as always, if you like this, I have a Patreon down below. Don't hit this thing, though. I want you to hit this one if you like it, to tell YouTube, to tell other people, to prompt it so they can look at it as well. And then just let me know what else you think, what else you've got your eye on. I've got a video that's also going to be talking about just other things on the horizon that you should be aware of and budgeting for sometime later in the distant, probably Q3 of this year as well, coming out soon in the near future. As always, though, thanks for watching. Stay classy. Have a great day. I'll see you around. I better. New setup. Gotta attract all the boys and girls and everybody to the yard. So, represent.